Nkumaso works every day in a noisy little workshop in the coastal town of Galini, fixing engines, wiping oil from his hands, and pretending the jokes from his friends don't hurt him. They laugh at him whenever he walks by, calling him careless, saying he never has money, and joking that someone like him could never take care of anyone. He listens quietly and forces a small smile, never correcting them, never defending himself. They only see the surface of his life, the tired clothes, the greasy hands, the long hours. They don't see the truth he protects like a fragile secret. Every night after work, Nkumaso rushes home through the busy streets, ignoring the loud markets and the rowdy boys playing near the harbor. Inside his tiny room, a small child waits for him with the widest smile, always excited for his return. The moment Nkumaso steps through the door, the child runs toward him, arms open, ready for the hug they share every evening. This is the part of his life no one knows. The part he never shows. The little one he has been raising alone since the day the mother disappeared without a word. He cooks simple meals, washes small clothes, and tells bedtime stories he makes up on the spot. Even on nights when his body feels too heavy to move, he wakes up before sunrise, not because he wants to, but because he must. He leaves quietly so the child can sleep a little longer. He walks to work thinking about school fees, food prices, and how to stretch the few coins he earns. His friends assume he spends on parties or careless fun, but every cent goes toward the child who trusts him more than anyone. Every time someone mocks him, he wants to tell them that responsibility isn't loud, that love doesn't have to be displayed, and that strength isn't measured by what people can see. But he keeps everything inside, choosing peace over arguments. He knows people judge easily, and they would never believe he has been fighting a silent battle every single day. Still, when he returns home to that small smile and tiny hands reaching for him, he forgets every rumor, every insult, every joke. In that moment, he knows he is doing something greater than anyone around him understands. He may look like just another young mechanic, but in his hidden world, he is a protector, a provider, and the only parent a child depends on. Malini is only 6, but anyone who meets her can see a special light in her eyes. She asks questions about everything she sees, from the color of the sky to how the waves move, and she loves touching things just to understand how they work. She carries a quiet strength, the kind that comes from going through more than a child ever should. Her early years were full of confusion and fear, memories she never talks about, but traces of it still show in the way she holds Nkumaso's hand a little too tightly when strangers walk by. To her, he is not just a parent, he is her safe place, her whole world. Nkumaso watches her with a kind of love that makes him forget how tired he is. He keeps her far away from the people who laugh at him during the day, because he doesn't want their negativity to touch her. He never brings anyone from the workshop near their home. He knows how cruel words can be, and he refuses to let her tiny heart feel even a bit of that hurt. When she is around, he lowers his voice, softens his steps, and tries his best to smile even after a long, difficult day. When the sun sets and the town grows quiet, most people rest, but Nkumaso starts his second job. He walks to the harbor, slips off his jacket, and begins fixing the old wooden boats used by fishermen. The salty wind stings his eyes, but he keeps working, tightening bolts and replacing damaged parts, knowing every extra coin matters. These late-night hours are the reason Malini has notebooks, crayons, and a pair of shoes that actually fit. He watches her study by the little lamp in their room, and feels proud, even when exhaustion makes his hands tremble. Sometimes, while repairing a boat, he imagines her future, sitting in a classroom, learning new things, meeting people who treat her kindly. He tells himself that every hour he spends by the water, every blister on his hands, every moment of lost sleep is worth it because it builds her tomorrow. What others see as a careless young man is actually someone carrying a responsibility bigger than anyone around him guesses. In the quiet moments before dawn, when he walks home and sees her sleeping peacefully, he feels a warmth that fills every empty space inside him. She survived a painful beginning, and he is determined to give her a beautiful life, even if he has to fight for it alone. One stormy afternoon, dark clouds gather over Galini, and the wind begins to howl like something warning the town to hide. Rain pours suddenly, hitting the ground so hard it feels like the sky is falling. Within minutes, the streets fill with water, shops close their shutters, and people run in every direction trying to protect their homes. The waves from the coast rise higher and push into the town, turning the roads into fast-moving streams. No one expected the storm to grow this strong, this quickly, and fear spreads everywhere. The loudest screams come when the news reaches everyone that the school has collapsed. Parents rush toward the broken building, crying out names, searching for their children. Teachers shout instructions, trying to lead people away from the dangerous area, but panic has taken over. Pieces of wood float through the water, books drift away, and the metal roof lies twisted like paper. The whole community feels the shock at the same time, and hearts break as the rain keeps falling harder. Nkumaso hears the news while working in the workshop and drops his tools without a second thought. He fights against the strong water, pushing through the streets with his heart pounding. Every step feels slower than the last, but he forces himself forward, shouting Malini's name as he runs. The water reaches his knees, then his waist, but he doesn't care. All he can think about is her small voice, her tiny hands, her smile that waits for him every evening. He keeps calling her name, hoping she will answer. When he reaches the area near the school, he sees other parents crying and searching. A teacher, soaked and shaking, tells him several children are missing, including Malini. The world around him suddenly feels heavier than the storm itself. He stares at the broken building, feeling the ground disappear beneath his feet. For a moment he cannot breathe. Then something sharp and fierce rises inside him, fear mixed with determination. He charges deeper into the flooding streets, checking every corner, calling her again and again, his voice cracking from desperation. People try to stop him, telling him the water is too dangerous, but he breaks free, refusing to listen. Every second feels like an hour, every splash of water feels like a threat. The only thing that matters to him now is finding that little girl who trusts him more than anyone. He will not stop until he brings her back into his arms. Nkumaso refuses to stand still while the storm destroys everything around him. He runs from house to house, shouting for help, asking for lanterns, small boats, and strong ropes. People are scared, but when they see the fire in his eyes, they hand him whatever they can find. He doesn't stop to explain anything. He ties ropes around his waist, throws lanterns into boats, and pushes forward even as the rain blinds him. Water crashes against his legs, but he keeps moving, ready to risk everything if it means bringing the missing children home. His voice echoes through the storm, calling every able person to join him, and slowly the crowd begins to follow. His friends, the same ones who used to laugh at him and call him irresponsible, watch him with disbelief. They have never seen him like this, strong, focused, and fearless. At first, they hesitate, frozen by fear and guilt. But when they see him wade into the rising water alone, holding a lantern high above his head, something in them changes. One by one, they grab extra lanterns and climb into the small boats. They exchange worried looks but choose to follow him. Even though their hearts shake, they can't ignore the truth anymore. The man they made fun of is the one leading the rescue, while everyone else panics. Together, they move toward the outskirts where the flood is worse. Houses stand half-drowned, roofs barely visible above the water. Trees bend under the heavy wind, and debris floats everywhere. Every sound mixes with the storm. Crashing waves, creaking wood, distant shouts, but still they push forward. Nkumaso's lantern lights the path as he guides the boats through narrow, dangerous spaces. He keeps scanning the area, calling out for the children again and again, refusing to lose hope. Just when their strength begins to fade and doubts creep into their minds, a soft, trembling sound reaches them. It's small, almost covered by the storm. They all freeze, listening closely. Then they hear it again, a faint cry coming from behind a cluster of fallen trees. Nkumaso's heart jumps, and without waiting for anyone, he moves the boat toward the sound. His friends paddle fast, their fear replaced by a new burst of urgency. The cries grow clearer, weak but alive, and every second pulls them closer. Nkumaso leans forward, gripping the lantern tightly, knowing this moment could change everything. They follow the small cries until the light from Nkumaso's lantern finally lands on something unexpected. There, in the middle of the flooded area, sits an overturned water tank, half floating, half stuck between broken branches. And on top of it, holding tightly to the metal surface, is little Malini. Her wet hair sticks to her face, but her eyes stay sharp and steady. Beside her, 3 younger children cling to her arms and shoulders, shivering but safe. It takes the group a moment to understand what they're seeing. She didn't just survive, she saved others. While the water rushed around them, she somehow pulled each child out, guiding them to the tank and keeping them calm. Despite the chaos around her, she speaks softly to the little ones, telling them not to look at the water and to hold on. Her voice is steady even though the storm rages. She keeps checking their hands, making sure no one slips. The search team watches in awe, realizing this tiny girl has more courage than most adults. Her clear instructions to the frightened children make everyone fall silent. Even the friends who once joked about her father feel a new kind of respect rising inside them. They never imagined a 6-year-old could show such bravery. Nkumaso's chest tightens when he sees her. Relief hits him so hard he almost falls to his knees. He leans over the edge of the boat and calls her name, his voice shaking in a way he cannot control. The moment she hears him, her whole face lights up. Without waiting for anything else, she tells the children to stay still for one more moment. Then she stands, balancing carefully on the tank, and leaps straight into her father's arms. He catches her tightly, holding her as if he will never let go again. She wraps her arms around his neck and whispers the words that melt every fear inside him. "My hero." The friends watch them, their mouths slightly open, their earlier judgment washed away by the truth in front of them. They see a father who crossed a flood for his child, and a child who protected others with a bravery far beyond her age. The lantern light reflects on the water as the boat turns back towards safety, and for the first time, no one mocks Nkumaso. Instead, they follow him silently, humbled by the strength of both father and daughter. When the storm finally calms and the rescue boats reach safer ground, the friends stand around Nkumaso in quiet shame. For years they laughed at him, called him careless, and made jokes about his life. But now, after seeing him risk everything for his daughter, and watching how bravely she protected other children, they realize how wrong they were. One of them steps forward and tells him they never understood him, that they only saw the outside and judged him without knowing what he carried inside. Another friend lowers his head, admitting they spoke badly about a man who was doing more than all of them combined. As they watch Malini sit by her father's side, they notice how polite she is, how she listens carefully, how she thanks everyone who helped. She doesn't cry or complain even after everything she went through. She checks on the younger kids she saved, making sure they are warm and calm. Her manners, her courage, her gentle way of speaking show everyone the truth. This little girl was raised with love, care, and patience. The friends finally understand that the long nights Nkumaso spent working, the tired eyes he hid behind small smiles, the silence he kept around them, all of that was for her. Every sacrifice shaped her into the wise and disciplined child now sitting proudly beside him. Parents from the community gather around, some still shaking from fear and relief. The mothers of the rescued children can barely hold back their tears as they thank Nkumaso again and again. They tell him he didn't just save their kids, he saved their entire families. Others kneel in front of Malini, calling her brave, calling her a blessing, praising her for thinking clearly when even adults panicked. The small crowd grows as more people arrive, wanting to show gratitude. They clap, they whisper her name with admiration, and they tell stories of how they found hope again the moment they saw her safe. Nkumaso holds her close, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief as he listens to their words. For the first time, the town sees him not as the struggling mechanic they once teased, but as a devoted parent who taught his daughter strength and kindness through his own actions. And as the people surround them with appreciation, the friends who once doubted him now stand behind him, humbled and silent, finally recognizing the man they never truly knew. Nkumaso decides to host a small celebration at his workshop, not for himself, but for the people who helped during the flood and for the brave little girl who saved lives. He cleans the space, lights a few lanterns, and sets up a simple table with snacks and drinks. The workshop, usually filled with the smell of oil and the sound of hammers, now glows warmly with laughter and soft conversation. Children run around, playing carefully, while parents share stories of how everyone pulled together in the storm. The mood is light, but the memory of the dangerous flood still lingers, making the joy feel even more powerful. His friends, the ones who mocked him for years, stand nervously near the corner. One by one, they approach him, their faces full of genuine regret. They tell him they were wrong, that they never understood his courage or the strength it takes to raise a child alone. One friend puts a hand on his shoulder saying, Nkumaso, you're the kind of father we wish we had. Another nods, adding, we judged too quickly. Watching you today, you've taught us more than we could imagine. Their words are simple, but they carry the weight of truth and admiration. Nkumaso doesn't respond with anger. He simply smiles, feeling the sincerity in their voices and the change in their hearts. Malini stands beside him, her eyes bright, her small hand in his. She watches the adults around her and notices how proud they are, how they finally see the care and guidance she receives every day. She whispers softly, we did it, Daddy, and Nkumaso squeezes her hand. In that moment, all the struggles, all the long nights fixing boats and working extra hours, feel worth it. The laughter of children, the clinking of cups, and the warm glow of lanterns wrap around them like a shield against the hard days they have faced. He looks at her closely, seeing not just his child, but the result of every sacrifice he ever made. Pride fills him, but more than that, there's a quiet joy, a sense of completeness he never felt before. He thinks silently, being her father didn't just make me strong, it made me whole. The words echo in his mind, matching the happy noise of the workshop. For the first time he feels entirely at peace, knowing that the love, courage, and lessons he shared with Malini shaped both of their lives into something extraordinary. The small celebration becomes a memory of triumph, not just over the storm, but over fear, doubt, and the limits he once thought he had. If you enjoyed Nkumaso and Malini's story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing African tales. Hit the bell so you never miss a new story filled with courage, love, and adventure.